to start off today with Professor Marc Clement, who's going to take us through how he came to discover this technology and the future of IPL technology. So if I can hand over to you, Marc.
Thank you, Mai. Good morning to you all. So ipulse as a company was founded in 2002. First professional products were launched in 2005 and sold in 43 countries around the globe. But in 2009, the technology advances were such that the organization decided to focus on the consumer market. And that led to the product launch in 2009 with our partners Boots of the first smooth skin product. My interest in this field and my activities in this field was launched in 1990. The then Secretary of State for Health in the UK, Kenneth Clarke, was asked a question in the House of Commons. Why was it that patients in the US could be treated with laser technology and patients in the UK could not, because the NHS could not afford the technology because it was American patented technology? So I was invited to take a look, cast an eye over the patent landscape and see if it was possible to navigate through that complexity and develop a product for the NHS.
So this is a product the NHS could afford?
At a price the NHS could afford, without having to pay the huge prices demanded by the US manufacturers.
And what kind of things were you being asked to look at?
The primary driver, at that time, was port wine stains or birthmarks.
Yeah.
And here, this slide shows a mature patient treated with the technology we then developed, and a younger patient treated. Because laser technology is the only way of treating these birthmarks. I think today we've treated tens, hundreds of thousands of people, predominantly young children, because you can now treat the infant child on 5 continents. But that's how we got into this, the market. Because we were primarily talking to plastic surgeons and dermatologists, in the dialogue, in coffee dialogue as it were, in between patients, one of the surgeons said, "What a shame we can't suppress unwanted hair growth." The particular patient he was referring to is the young girl whose scalp we see in this slide. And David, the plastic surgeon at the time, said, "What a shame we can't suppress unwanted hair growth." And coincidentally, as a young PhD student, way back in the 70s, I have to admit, my friend and I were messing about a little in the laboratory and accidentally fired a laser intended to produce laser fusion on the back of my hand. And I remember smelling the aroma of the burnt hair and thinking, I wonder what that will do to me in years to come.
So this was a complete fluke? You were just messing about?
Complete accident.
Accident.
As far as I'm aware, that's the first recorded and referred to incident of suppressing unwanted hair.
Yes. And this is 1979?
1979.
And the hair never grew back on your hand?
I've still got the hand with me today. And
with a bald patch?
With a bald patch.
I can attest to that, there is a bald patch on his hand.
Absolutely. So that's when we looked at the suppression of hair growth, but predominantly for genuine clinical need. Didn't cross my mind that there might be a cosmetic
application for it, yeah.
So here we have typical examples of the genuine clinical need at the time. The young girl with a transplanted ear.
That's the one at the top, yes?
The one at the top right. The lady's leg with polycystic ovary syndrome on the left.
Because that's one of the side effects of that, isn't it? That you, with overgrowth of hair.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a woman's leg on the left.
That's a woman's leg on the left with an oval treated patch just to the whole leg was shaved, and the central portion treated with the laser technology at that time.
Okay.
And then we have a transgender scenario on the bottom right, where a gentleman on the left went through a transgender process and then suppressing the growth of the beard was necessary. So we focused virtually exclusively on genuine clinical needs. That we announced these results on the then BBC programme Tomorrow's World. Perhaps some of our participants this morning will
This
not.
is you on Tomorrow's World.
That's a younger version of me.
Yeah.
And the BBC
But this was a very, very popular cutting-edge science programme at the time, wasn't it?
and broadcast globally, enormous viewing figures,
Yes.
but couldn't afford a lens that could focus on the back of my hand.
So you had to do
we had
patch your
to
arm.
mimic the
Yeah.
arm. But it's interesting. BBC would broadcast Tomorrow's World on a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock from memory. But we mentioned the hospital where the work was being undertaken, and their switchboard was totally log jammed for the weekend. I think 34,000 phone calls were lost. And then, of course, subsequently,
This is your ITV News.
This is ITV News.
So you've got lots of publicity following
I
this.
think 150 television programs in the US covered this development. But not only was our understanding of the science developing, but our understanding of the technology was developing in parallel. And we were seeing dramatic technological advances, meaning that a machine that might weigh as much as a domestic refrigerator, a large domestic refrigerator, it was possible conceptually to make these for a kilogram or less.
Okay. So how does this bit work? Because this looks pretty complicated to me.
It's not complicated, it's pretty straightforward indeed. If it was complicated, I'd struggle to understand. So what we have is the ability of digital control, the modern digital age, to control the optical output of the pulse.
So that's the strength of it.
Not only the strength would be the intensity.
Right.
You can also control digitally the wavelength, the colour spectrum.
Yeah.
But you can also control very accurately the temporal domain, that is, how long it's on for and how long it's off for.
So why is this important then? What in shrinking the technology and bringing it to consumers, why does this make a difference?
Because moving from the hands of the professional to the hands of the consumer, even though the modern consumer is very, very well informed, we have to demonstrate to the regulators that this is absolutely safe and efficacious.
But this is for different skin types, is that correct?
Well, it's not only got to be safe and efficacious for a skin type, it's got to be safe and effective for all skin types.
Okay.
And nature conspires against us. Nature has given us skin that will allow certain wavelengths to penetrate for the creation of vitamin D, for example.
Yes.
But nature's conspired to produce a barrier that stops blue or ultraviolet light from penetrating into the dermis.
Because it's interesting, I've always been told that I was the perfect candidate. Very dark hair, very pale skin, and it's the difference in colour. And that if you've got darker skin, hair removal, IPL, doesn't work that well, but yours is different?
You are the perfect candidate. You're the simplest target, if you forgive me for using that phrase. But you are the simplest target because your skin is pale and your hair is very dark. Therefore, it's the easiest challenge to get the light in and target the melanin in the hair. However, consumers have a range of skin types and a range of hair types. So the digital technology allows us to control the three parameters: energy, time, and colour spectrum, so that we can target each of the skin types, and allows us to deliver the required energy into the hair without endangering in any way, totally keeping the surrounding skin safe and pain-free. Therefore, to achieve that in the hands of the consumer, in our view, you need what modern world calls a companion diagnostic. You need an instrument that measures the skin type, it's the skin tone sensor, and identifies to the machine automatically what your skin type is, and therefore the skin elects to choose the set of parameters, the set of outputs.
Because you can have different colour skin on different parts of your body as well, can't
Absolutely.
you? So does this compensate for that?
It compensates for that, and indeed your hair is different on different parts of the body. So it compensates for all of those matters, for all of those dynamics. And so the skin tone sensor is a critical ingredient in the successful delivery of and safe delivery of suppression of unwanted hair. And finally, we are working, what could be the future of this technology? And I believe that we are just looking at the tip of the iceberg, working with light alone, but working with light in combination with creams, potions and lotions. It's possible to treat and deal with skin aging, skin rejuvenation, wrinkle reduction, and the treatment of problems such as acne.
Okay.
So, and I forgot I've got one more slide. It's
Yes.
interesting.
Oh, this is the original machine, which is
So-
indeed the side of a large American fridge.
So the technological advances
Yeah.
have taken the machine from something
Yes.
that's huge to something that's small
Quite
and
small,
compact,
yeah.
making it available to the consumer.
Yeah.
But of course, in that process, the costs have collapsed.
Yes.
But interestingly, the regulatory process that originally could only be used by a consultant,
Yeah.
plastic surgeon, dermatologist, then as the technology evolved and the science matured, by the doctor only,
Yeah.
the nurse, the beautician,
And now the
and
consumer.
now it's safe
Okay.
and can deliver benefits in the hands of the consumer.